Less than 24 hours ago, a report was released that will echo around the world. It is 154 pages. Yes, that includes the appendices. It revealed in a nutshell of artificial general intelligence, the holy grail of AI research. And yes, I was skeptical. I'm gonna break down only. I want to address the thought that you must be having. When the model's only been out a week, they have interacted with GPT-4. These researchers, as early as October of last year, they had the raw model, the unrestricted version, not the final version of GPT-4, and reduce biases, so they had around. That's enough build up. And all of them I'm gonna do in order. Because honestly, on page 45 they say GPT-4 is able to use tools with very minimal instruction and no demonstrations, and they make use of them appropriately. They go on to say that this is an emergent capability. Before I get into the details, in human evolution, so the fact that GPT-4 can use them so well is truly a milestone in AI and human history. I'm going to show you more examples, but let's start with their examples and can use it effectively. I talk about how it struggles with characters and work out the number of characters, but that was one of its key weaknesses before. How about text to image? GPT-4 can output detailed images based on a text prompt. These can then easily, using a model like Stable Diffusion, notice how the model knew how to arrange the object. And at this point, like Adept AI, the point is that once language models understand, the sky is the limit. Mock technical interviews on Leak Code. Hired right now. On page 21. Medium and hard leak code tasks. And it then says it is comparable to human performance. Well, try to remember these numbers. The K equals 5 is that they picked the best of its 5 attempts. You see this? Easy, medium, and hard. And by the way, because they didn't include those guys, they took those guys out of the database for only to those humans that got at least. And you thought it was just standard coding. When given a task of some complexity, I must say, a working game in a zero, short fashion, responds that you can't do it. The enemy is trying to rush towards you. That's trying to block the enemy. As you can see from this video, who have used GPT-4. And trust me, amazing achievement for longer. But I need to get on to the next topic, and that is, on the 2022 International Mathematics Olympiad, that was not in its database. I've studied, and it is not easy. It is an extremely, and as the authors say, requires a more creative approach, as there is no, for beginning the proof, as you might expect, manages to produce, as I have demonstrated in other videos. As the paper points out, due to technical proficiency, calculation errors, the paper proved, if given access to one, and honestly, the world next. But I loved it. These are the kind of questions asked, and they have no things like, or please estimate roughly. Questions are being asked every day. And GPT-4 can hazard Next, and this one was worth waiting for. Personal assistant. I know it's called Google Assistant. GPT-4 can use available APIs, information, coordinate with other, book a dinner, and message the user. This is a sample. Sending an email to Luke, and then receiving Luke's reply, checking the calendar, in the calendar, to Joe, etc., etc. In an app format, have that AI, personal assistant, for moving on. Can be your. One of the authors had a leak in their bathroom. They went through a diagnostic, and it figured out what the problem was. Followed GPT. The leak was gone. And if you thought that was impressive, if it's allowed to ask, as you can see above, a mental map of, that is entering. You can see a map of each room. You can see GPU, image of them. By the way, this ability, of course, very relevant. And I'm going. Speaking of which, please don't forget to leave a like. Next up is theory of mind. So do check it out. Essentially, discovered the same thing, which is to say that GPT-4, a mental model of what other people. You can pause the video. It essentially involves must be thinking about a situation is different with what a human being. This is a key milestone. Too possible. But if you're interested in that topic. Now I know at this point. The best bits. On page 80 the authors. GPT-4 is an auto. Which means, its outputs come before. That's great. Planning ahead. How its outputs gonna end. And I'm gonna reveal of this fascinating weakness. First with their examples. One of my own making. They try to get GP, which begins and then ends in reverse order. GPT-4 simply, because it doesn't know, is going to end. Remember, it's an auto. After repeatedly and unsuccessfully testing GPT, the authors, GPT-4 is amazing, but not as good. Incremental tasks. You follow a building things up, like composing a poem or writing a summary of a text, and then next, but discontinuous. You to know the end result. They give a great example. You kind of need to line before. Maybe that's why. Bad at joke telling. Of an amazing punchline. Backwards to create. I came up with a simple to show you guys. For this question, how many words? To this prompt. It has to know of its output. Because it's just word by word. It can't do this. Are 43 words to this prompt. In the question. Okay, that's the question itself. If it got it, list them out. And then it went. The prompts, want but fine, are in the full response, etc., etc., and there were only in the prompt and the output, but remember, doesn't know when it starts. This will be on language models. Progressing further. A paper came out in January. Theoretically, augment large with external memory and answers. Such works raise of whether augmenting with an external is merely useful, expands the range that can be performed. This paper gives Now obviously, from here to there, imagine if GPT-4 gets access, or say GPT-5. Authors know of language models, fast thinking, and another doing. Big picture of the language model. From there arguably, the ultimate, possibly even, breakthrough. Dangerous on page 84. Know that the unrestricted GPT-4 at propaganda, it can design, replete with. Can I worry? Before someone, this kind of version, uses it in the wild. Next, and I think, stunning admission, at Microsoft, some people, the ability, and specify, which content, do not want. They're flagging this up. Privacy and the context. Taking away jobs. Taking away whose content? I wouldn't be surprised. Contention there, 2 final points. The authors, large language models, and intrinsic, that this is, and important, future work. This is in the not being motivated, just being passive. Well, I do think, fascinating direction. But it's also giving a language model not only has and questions like rights then, but it also safety concerns. Of course they do admit of work great to be taken in safety. I'm too keen on of giving it fascinating direction as if something we should. This is especially true of the final. They admit that know what is. They know what GTV, but not really of those things. Hypotheses, but this overall elucidating the nature and mechanisms such as GPT-4 challenge that has suddenly and urgent translated. We need to figure things work. I definitely. Thank you so much. Let me know and have a wonderful day.